Hello, everyone, and welcome to our dangerous dialogue about coming out here with Car Crash Productions. I'm Tom Sargent, the artistic director at Car Crash Productions, and I am really quickly going to mute the YouTube because I've learned really quickly. It's taken me 4 weeks to learn this, that if I don't mute the YouTube, then I hear our voices back and it's really distressing. So there we go. I've averted a disaster that I almost forgot about. But yes, so today is the first of our Dangerous Dialogues talking about pride. The title Dangerous Dialogues makes it feel like they are quite potentially big and scary, and a lot of these topics that we are talking about for some people are big and scary, and that's why we want to kind of break the stigma around this and encourage people to have their own conversations, which is why our hashtag is #join the conversation. Whoa, I felt like I hosted a TV show there. Talking of wonderful human beings, we have 3 other wonderful human beings here, and I'm going to chuck over to them to introduce themselves because they are perfectly able. So I'm going to go to Colette first, who's next to me on my screen.
Hi, my name is Colette, pronouns she/her, and I am an actor, mainly focusing on musical theatre acting, and I live in the north. There you go.
Smashing, I love it. Where are we going next? Ooh, surprise me. Let's go to Matt.
Hi there, guys. I'm Matt. Any pronouns are completely fine. Do not worry about them. I am a recent musical theatre graduate, but most recently I have decided that I want to be a drag queen. So that is happening, or a drag artist, I should say, actually. But yeah, and I live in London.
Amazing. And finally, Jack.
Hello, so I'm Jack. I usually go by he, him, but I don't really think about it, to be honest. I also did musical theatre back in the day. There's a theme here, but I'm now a teaching assistant in a primary school with reception, and they're really cute.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, so a lot of musical theatre going on here.
Yeah.
We will not be finishing with a musical finale for anyone that's waiting out for that. Sorry about it. Yes, so today we're kind of unpacking what coming out is and what we think that might be about, and all the things that come with that. So I just kind of want to hear from each of you before we kind of get deep into things, what coming out is to you, what you feel that means. Yeah, the platform is open.
I'll go first. So I feel like coming out, it's really weird because I don't not agree with it, but I feel like why you should be able to just go, this is my whatever. I don't think like it should be a massive thing. And I don't know whether that's what other people think or not, but I just feel like it's something that shouldn't really need to be a thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. 100% agree. I'm glad that someone else said it and didn't say like, oh, you should come out. I mean, if that's your prerogative, that's really great, but I just think in this society that we live in now, everything is just kind of assumed to be straight or heterosexual, and you shouldn't have to come out because then that kind of degrades you as a person, if that kind of makes sense. So yeah, I don't agree with the whole, you got to sit your mum down and your parents and your dads and all this, and you got to tell them you got to come out, because they should just love you for who you are, and if they don't accept that, then there are plenty of other people that will.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I think it's being able to live your, like, sorry to sound RuPaul's Drag Race, but like authentic, like your authentic self, I think, because it's important to just feel comfortable in who you are. And sometimes if you know, I don't know, maybe you might need to come out to, I don't know, like, no, need's not the right word, but I don't know, sometimes it is like a relief maybe to kind of, sometimes you might feel like you need to come out to kind of, you know, live authentically. So, yeah.
I absolutely agree with you, Jack. I think there's a little bit more to coming out than just the act of telling someone or speaking to someone else, because I think there's kind of that self realization and kind of internalization of coming out to yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think it's exactly what everyone else has said. I don't necessarily think it has to be like a big, oh, I'm this, I'm that. But I think there is you should be allowed to experiment, and kind of find who you are, because that's what life is about at its core, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think there is a moment where you might go, oh, this is how I feel about me, right? And I guess that is still coming out.
I think it definitely gives a chance for the person that is coming out, as you said, a realization for themselves, and also a relief, like in personal experience. I didn't really come out to my family at all. Came out to my dad, but that's a whole nother story that maybe we can get into. But like all my other family, it's only recently that I've decided I want to be a drag queen, and all my family have been like, oh, what are you doing now? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm actually doing drag now. And then I'm like, oh, now they know. Like 100% is definitely part of the community, the LGBTQIA plus community. And I think that's kind of a relief in itself, because I'm sure there was many conversations in my family that went around like, is he not?
Yeah.
You know, so I think it is a relief for the person as well.
And kind of going back to living your authentic self, I think sometimes as well, kind of you have to do the sort of neutral answers, like if someone mentions a boy or a girl, you know, vice versa, and you kind of have to just go like, yeah. So like I remember when I was at college, I remember my dad saying like, are there any, you know, kind of any girls that you're interested in? And I said no, which, I mean, not technically a lie, but like I think to be able to be like, well, actually, I'm not interested in any girls, I'm afraid. Sorry. So yeah, so it's good to be able to like live authentically. So
yeah, absolutely. I it's interesting because I think we've kind of talked about that, whether that coming out moment, to call it something, is like a literal sitting down someone and having that conversation, or whether it's kind of almost like outing yourself. Is that the right way to say it? I mean, that sounds quite icky, but I guess if you are living your life the way that you want to live it, living your authentic life, oh God, please, we're not even 10 minutes in and we said that 3 times. But it's true though. I guess if you do that, at some point someone will go, oh, so are you know, whatever letter of the queer alphabet? Oh, has that been said before? Can I coin that? The letters of the queer alphabet. I'm sorry, that's great.
Very good. Get it trademarked and just make sure no one else uses it.
That's it. No one else can use it now. Yeah.
I heard Alphabet Mafia on TikTok as well, and I was like, I quite like that one actually. It sounds more mysterious, like I'm a part of the Alphabet Mafia. Like it sounds like you're a spy or something.
Yeah. Or like the Alphabet Avengers, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That sounds more interesting.
These are all great. This is Pride Month.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe they should change the coming out term, like, because really you're not coming out, you're coming in, you're coming into a community, you're coming into like yourself, you're coming into something like that's something else. Why does it have to be coming out of normal or coming out of, do you know what I mean? Like it should be
exactly.
Really.
Yeah, definitely. And it has to be on your own terms as well, because I think, I don't know kind of what your experiences have been, but it used to give me like so much anxiety. We'd be like, are you gay? Like just asking. And I was just like, I don't know. Like, you know, it has to be like on your own terms. And I think, like kind of, it doesn't have to be a sit down thing. I think sometimes it could just be, if you're, you know, dating, you just mention their name or mention, you know, this guy or this person or this whatever it is. So it should be more casual, but it depends for different people, I suppose. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some people don't usually get the time to say like, oh, I'm dating this such and such person.
Yeah.
So especially for me, like I never got to that point where I was like, right, I'm going to tell my family about this person.
Yeah.
Classic kind of community kind of stuff. But yeah, so I can't even remember what my point was. I completely verged off to another dimension. Someone else wants to go, that would be great, so I can gather my thoughts. This is live, people.
I also don't mention that I'm dating someone, because I think this happens with the straights as well, is that as soon as you mention you're dating someone, it like fizzles out, and then you're just like, they're like, oh, so what happened with that person? You're just like, oh, just, yeah, I don't know.
And then
it just puts so much pressure on it, like, and it just has to be a thing constantly, and then your extended family find out about it 3 months, you've already ended it, and it's like,
exactly, exactly, I know.
I think that's so interesting, because we're kind of touching on the fact that I guess coming out has layers, to quote Shrek, who is a queer icon. Sorry, total sidebar. I will get back to I will forget my point if I sidebar. I'll do what Matt just did. There's layers there's layers to kind of coming out, where I guess there's coming out to family, which is, I guess, for a lot of people, the thing that has the biggest fear associated with it. Because there's that fear of, like, I mean, for some people, like disownment, disassociation from the family. Then there's coming out to friends, which for most people is probably the easiest bit, because they're your friends and they love you unconditionally. But why don't family as well? And then there's workplace, or other places in life that I think is like a third layer. That was a lot. But I think it's really interesting to me that it's family specifically that a lot of people seem to have the fear for, and it's family we've talked about a lot there.
I was 17 when I came out to my friends, and then it wasn't until I was 19 that I came out to my mum and my sister. So I think it was almost kind of like pressure from people, like, because we got to like sixth form age and I was 17, they were like, right, come on, it's been long enough now, you got to admit it. And I was just like, yeah, you guessed it, whatever. Guilty. Oh my God, that just made me think of that Family Guy thing. I've just not seen that one. Guilty. But yeah, so basically they said, are you gay? And I said, yeah, guilty, like that. And then it was when I was at college that I kind of like, I sort of lived away from home for a bit, and then I kind of came back. I think it was in the summer. I was kind of like, I'd sort of lived out on my own for a little bit, and then so the kind of family one was after. I was very lucky in the sense that I didn't think I was going to be like disowned or anything like that, because my mum's a bit of a hippie, so I thought she'd be cool with it. But it was just, I just didn't want it to be awkward. That's the thing. I think there's nothing worse than it's like awkward. My mum's reaction was, she said, I thought you could have gone either way, which I thought was a bit of a lie, because I thought back and I was like, oh, are you sure about that one? But yeah, I don't know. I think I was quite lucky in that she was very like supporting, but I did wait till later because I wasn't really sure how it was going to go. So
definitely for myself coming out, I was a bit younger when I soon came to realize. I was 14 when I came out to like my friends. I was obviously like bisexual at first, and then I was gay after, but that was...
We've all been there.
Yeah, soon after. So my friends were all fine. It was actually saying that I forget most of my childhood when but my best friend at the time was a boy. I think he still identifies as a boy. So, but yeah, so we wasn't friends anymore since I came out, unfortunately. But that's all cool, because the person who was dating became my best friend and is still my best friend now. So worked out for a reason anyway. And then when I came out to my family, technically I came out to them at 23 when I told them I was drag queen. But my dad was also 14, and yeah, it was just a bit of a whirlwind experience, because I brought him into the school. I had a counsellor at the time as well, and we like told him together, and he was cool with it. I mean, I know he had gay friends, blah blah blah, all this. So it's quite nice. And then say like my family now, I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but my cousin is gay as fuck. He sells handbags for a living. He basically does drag makeup every day. He's got a fierce brow. He's always made up, looks gorgeous, but like I knew there was going to be no issues for me, which I was quite lucky and happy with. So yeah, that's just basically my story of coming out.
I actually have 2 gay cousins now. I have them on both sides of my family.
Oh,
I'm the oldest, so I was first. So
you're so lucky. I was the youngest, so everyone was like, "Oh, what's new?" Like,
yeah,
come on. So I had to step it up again and be the gayest of gay. Do you know what I mean? And try to play with every single gender role that's under the sun. But yeah. All of ours is on one side, which is quite interesting, actually. It's from like my dad's side of the family.
Yeah, I haven't like mine's kind of. I'm from a very Catholic family, so it's very anxiety driven. So like even like my grandparents don't know that I'm out because it's just not even worth thinking about.
Yeah.
But, like, so hopefully they don't watch this. And like, so it's just a bit weird, like, because. So my mum's fine with it, and like my family are fine with it, like that side of things. But like my grandparents, I think they probably would accept it, but I don't want to tell them because it's like I don't know how they'd react, and it's just kind of not really worth pushing that boat, if that makes sense. So it kind of like we just don't speak of it at all. Like no one asks, no one speaks of it, no one does anything. Yeah. It's just kind of like, because they are like extremely Catholic, like they go to church every Sunday, like. Just, you know, everything's this, that, and the other. Like, have a child, get married. Like, that's how you should do it, and that's how they do it. But yeah, it's a bit different.
Yeah. The thing that I don't know if anyone else has had this before, but the thing that I was like, I bet straights never have, is I've been asked, how do you know? Like, how do you know? I'm just like, what do you mean, how do I know?
How do you know you're straight?
Exactly. I'm like, how did you know that you liked boys or liked girls? Obviously, if you're straight. But yeah, and then I think sometimes when you try and explain to people, like, it's the same. So like how you feel about a girl or a guy is how I feel about guys. And they're like, oh, okay. As if that's like mind blowing. Right. But but being like asked, how do you know? I think that's so frustrating as well. Like, it's just like, I don't know. It's just like, you wouldn't, I don't know. Like, so like someone's like, I don't know. Someone was like, oh, I like, I don't know, cheese, and you're like, how do you know? It's like, no, like, come on, why do you think? It's just like, it's just frustrating. But also as well, I think that kind of growing up, I was like bullied because I was told that I had a gay voice. So my voice broke like quite early. Like, I think I was about 12, which was like intense. So I was told that I had like a gay voice, so that's kind of what I got bullied for. So then that's kind of why people were telling me that I was gay before I knew as well. So that was always fun.
See, that annoys me as well, because like when you come out and then people go, "Oh yeah, we always knew." Yeah, but you didn't. Yeah. But why do I have to now tell everyone then? If you already knew, why am I now making the effort to just tell everyone? Like, exactly. Thing, you're just taking away my big thing. Like.
Yeah, exactly.
No, stop it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about you, Linda. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's poor Linda. It's interesting because I feel like we're kind of thinking about it as like a big thing that you say to people. Just kind of going back to something that we said at the start. To me, there are several family members, not even just family members, people that I will never have the conversation about what my sexuality or their sexuality is, because I would never have that conversation in any circumstance. If I was talking about a girlfriend, I wouldn't have that conversation with them. I wouldn't talk about my sex life, because that's not something that I think they're interested in, and it's not something I particularly want to share with them. And it's not through shame. Yeah. I just don't. I don't care if they know or don't.
But then I find sometimes that the straights are super interested. The amount of times I've been asked, like, so are you like a top or a bottom? I'm just like, what the fuck? Like,
that. Yeah.
Honestly, exactly. And if I was like, oh, so do you like giving blowjobs, Sarah? Like, come on, like, you don't ask people stuff like that. But like, I'm just curious. You're like, come on, no.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
understand.
people, I guess they're interested to know, and people forget just because we like the same gender or whatever that they can get intrusive of whatever's going on behind closed doors that is private to us.
Yeah, exactly.
And it also goes to show with like transgender people, like, oh well, have you had your surgeries? Have you done it?
Exactly.
Like, it's not your place to ask them questions.
Exactly.
What you need to know is how they identify and how they'd like to be spoken about and what their pronouns are. That's literally it. Like, you do need to know about any of my sexual things in the bedroom. They would freak you out.
Oh my god.
That's why you don't want to know.
Literally.
You couldn't even fathom. But yeah, it's just, you know, people need to like take away from the intrusive nature. If you're not, I'm not going to.
Exactly. And I feel like, I mean, you can probably speak more on this, Colette, but I've heard before with like women, people being like, so how does it work? And you're just like, please, like, why? Like, it's just like, it makes me want to die.
Yeah, literally. It's like, what, you wouldn't ask, why? Just stop it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it does annoy me.
If they ever do ask why, and here's a little tip, get them to go on Netflix and watch Blue is the Warmest Colour.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fabulous film. It will be subtitled, but it will show you everything if you're really that interested. And it's a great film. Very good.
Okay.
Just the tip from Matt. There we go. It's really interesting that we're kind of talking about that reaction. That's almost like a positive reaction that we're kind of talking about, that people are inquisitive and asking those questions, because I don't know. I think it's clearly from a place of, can I say love? Is it from a place of love to say, I don't understand this and I'd like to know more? Maybe because I guess generationally, we are probably, maybe the generation just above us, are the first generation that have had the right to explore sex and gender
to
the level that we have. I guess for those that are older, because it's usually older people that you are coming out to rather than people that are younger. That is a very sweeping statement, I know. But I don't know, there's different preconceptions about that because of generational differences.
I just, and it's interesting as well, and it kind of does show sort of how far we've come as well. That so my mum, one of my mum's friends, her brother actually died during the AIDS crisis in the 80s, and it's just like, it's just kind of scary, especially for gay men, that there's this kind of sort of lost generation. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of interesting as well that you kind of feel like that, I don't know, like we've kind of got so much more freedom now to explore, and it kind of, because it's more talked about, you know, ways to be more safe and things like that, I think. And I think that because it wasn't talked about, that's why sadly so many people lost their lives, I think, because it wasn't spoken about, you know.
And I think it's, you know, even as you say, kind of the difference between even literally sort of what the AIDS crisis in the 80s, what's that, 40 years ago now? 40 years ago in the 80s, oh my goodness, that's anyway, that's a different thing to unpack. But I think that's something we think of in the UK, or, you know, in the Western world often, as really, that wasn't that long ago, but that still happens in other countries. It is still illegal to be homosexual in, I think it's 81 countries. And that is bewildering to me. That we're having a conversation like this and people feel like, oh, you know, it's great that you can talk about this, but it's so normal. Why do you have to talk about it? We have to talk about it because it's still not normal for some countries, for some people.
I mean, the whole thing about coming out, it kind of makes us feel like we're not normal. Unfortunately, and all this stuff in other countries is just like another level. But like here, like saying like, oh, you have to come out and let everyone know, like, hi, I am such and such, part of the, what was it, the queer alphabet. Yeah, because in society it's very heteronormative, and you're assumed to be straight until you say otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's just, I think, also part of the problem about coming out.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. And then obviously in other countries, like, some people aren't even allowed to express like we are in this country.
Yeah. But I mean, you could only, even in this country, you could only get married. I know in Scotland it was a bit earlier, but in England, you could only get married in 2014. Like, as late as that, you know?
Ireland was only last year.
Yeah, sorry?
Ireland was only last year. So, like, that's only across that way.
Yeah.
Some people swim it, I believe, and like, you can't even...
I have some stats on that because I did some research because it was Pride Month, and I thought I'd better be a good person and do some research about it. There's 28 countries where same-sex marriage is legal. 28. There's 195 countries on the planet, and only 28 of them it is legal for two people of the same gender to get married.
Yeah.
Gay rights is still a thing.
I know, honestly,
they're still important. You know, it's
exactly.
In a sense, although it is disappointing that you, I agree with you, Matt. It is disappointing because it kind of proves that heteronormative way that you have to come out because you are different from that normality.
Yeah.
And it is still exciting in a way that it's kind of a right that we have to be able to self-identify because there are so many that can't.
That is a very good point, because like, if you could look at it the other way of being like, I'm coming out, so I've got all this other greater community that will accept me for who I am and what I do or how I want to express myself. So it does bring like a nice sense of togetherness and community. And you know how I go to the straight bars and I also go to the gay bars, and I know where I feel most comfortable, basically.
Yeah. I think the thing that I wish that, I sort of wish there was a signal. I think sometimes if I see like gay couples, literally, but I sometimes wish that there was a signal, because I see sometimes like a really like a couple holding hands or something like that, and I'm staring at them like, oh my god, I love it, and then I think they're looking at me thinking I'm looking at them being like, ew. But so I just wish that I could be like, oh no, I'm as well, you know. So it's really like difficult, because I'm thinking like, oh, that's so sweet that, like, you know, I think I'm like trying to look at these couples to be like, oh, it's really nice that you can kind of do that in public, you know, or you feel kind of comfortable enough to do it in public. That's the right way to say it.
I guess that's why Pride's such a good like festival type thing, because it is a lot of people coming together and going, oh wow, like when you have it like in Manchester, or when you have it in your local towns and stuff like that, you see people that you probably see on a lot of the time, like on a daily basis or something, especially if you're in theatre, because it's such a small community anyway. And then it kind of gives you that opportunity to then open that conversation and go, oh my gosh, like that's so cool, like, oh, we have something in common, we can talk about that, and you know, we're all part of the same community.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess that's why it's like important to still have it, even though a lot of people say that you don't need it anymore because it's that and the other.
Or why isn't there a straight pride?
Yeah. Why do we not celebrate straight people?
Why isn't there a straight pride?
Don't know.
If
I don't know.
people are genuinely asking that question at this point, half an hour in, and said some of the stuff we have, then I'm not going to be able to answer that question for you.
Honestly,
to answer that question.
Exactly.
But yeah, coming off of like seeing like the people like holding hands that are part of like same sex or however they identify, I think it's great that they do that, so you can see like, oh, they are part of our community, and it's like out, because I know a lot of people, including myself, are even too scared to hold someone's hand walking down the street, to kiss them, even though I don't like PDA. But yeah, it's just lovely to see and be like be seen as you see someone else, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, definitely.
identify with them. So that's definitely a great thing.
Yeah. And also, if you watch like watching anything on Netflix or whatever, as soon as you see it's got a gay kiss, you're like, oh, hang on, let me just see where that is. Like, yeah. Like, I mean, I feel like I'm watching that Love, Victor at the moment. I feel like it's definitely for teenagers, but I'm like, oh god,
It's good.
it's me. Oh my god, literally. But
Can
yeah.
we talk about, sorry, season 1, lovely, really lovely.
Yeah.
But the trailer just came out for season 2. It's hardcore.
It is really hard.
It's like the first season's all about coming out, which we're talking about. But I guess the point is of coming out is that you are living your authentic self, as we've kind of talked about. So season 2 is the authentic self stuff, and it's like they are authentic. But it's really interesting that you mentioned Love, Victor, because I think we're going to talk about kind of representation in a few weeks' time. But I think it's really interesting to touch on the idea of coming out and playing that as our performer, because Love, Victor is, unless I'm completely mistaken, is 2 straight actors who are playing 2 characters from the LGBTQ community, and they play it very well, really watchable, as we've just said. But it's sort of like they're showing someone else's lived experience, which is an actor's job, I know. But it feels like there's some sort of barrier to me there. Yeah.
See, I don't know, because I think that for me, if they kind of do a good job, then I can kind of forgive it in a way. So I think so another one, I mean, not great with Old Army, but Call Me By Your Name, another one of kind of like, if it's like convincing as well. And also I think as well about like kind of representation is representation in a way. So I'm kind of thinking like, it's kind of getting more into the mainstream, I suppose, and kind of making it more normalized. So yeah, he did, obviously in Love, Victor, he does come out and it shows a coming out at the end. And I was like, okay, so it is kind of more of representation. And I found out he was straight and I was like, oh, I'm conflicted. But yeah. Also the other guy, Benji, he's British as well. Couldn't believe it.
Not British as well. God.
Yeah, exactly.
That's completely wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, well, but then also, you know, Meryl Streep doesn't really work for a magazine. Do you know what I mean? I guess if it's like convincing, I don't know.
And if they do the research, I think you need to do research, and you need to understand what it's like for people who are also living that life. I don't think you should do it. I think it brings a lot of like with the research and understanding and everything like that, you're understanding someone else's world, and you're kind of entering that. And I think that's important. If you're just going to read the lines and not understand any of the history behind it, then what's the point? Then I'm annoyed at you. Then I don't want you in that part. Like, if you can understand it and you can feel it and you can, you know, sympathise and empathise and everything else with that people who are living these lives, then fair enough. Go ahead, do it.
I think
exactly.
It's very taboo to have, or it's kind of like this uncertain grey area that is a bit difficult to find how we navigate with it. But I think if you're going to give a straight actor a LGBTQIA plus role, then also what needs to happen is that people within the community also need to be given straight roles and give that opportunity to be able to do them type of roles. So I think the biggest conversation is that all the straight people are also taking all the LGBT roles. That means that none left for the LGBTQIA actors.
Yeah.
So there just needs to be some producers out there, please just try and merge the two and get them to swiftly swap. But also it's like in terms of understanding, like you said, they need to do their research. They need to like find ways to link to, if they're, like you're saying, Love, Victor, if they're coming out, they have to find ways to link to that, or just do a good job of it, because I've seen some horrible ones done, especially from a talk show host in recent movies with but I'm not going to name any names.
Oh my God! Is it about a school dance?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yes.
Prom.
Yeah, and don't cut
Yeah.
people's hair and stick nose rings in them to make them a lesbian. That does not.
I thought that's what they all look like.
But then speaking about that movie, Ryan Reynolds did give James Corden the gay role, but then they also gave Andrew Reynolds the straight role. So that was where, like,
Yeah.
it's
Ryan
like
Murphy, for the record. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool.
oh my god!
Ryan Murphy. Oh my God!
That is so funny. I love him as well. Like, but oh well.
I just went along with it. That's fine.
Your point was so.
Thank you. I was so in it. I just wanted to see Ryan Reynolds on it. That's all.
Oh my God, that would be great. That would be great. But then also, I think it's interesting as well, kind of some celebrities coming out as well. That can kind of help because, like, for example, Elliot Page, I think him coming out on a kind of quite national platform, I guess. And I mean, I know she's kind of problematic, but Caitlyn Jenner, when she came out as transgender, that was sort of a quite kind of big thing. And I don't know, I think it's kind of, again, like, so some celebrities do kind of come out. Like, I remember as well, there was a big thing back in the day of YouTubers doing like coming out videos. That was like a big thing. I watched them all, but I remember that was a big thing.
For me,
but then
that's the exact reason that I have issues personally with stories that are about coming out being played by actors that have not experienced that, unless because I guess, as you've said, it's already that particular drama is for a teenage audience, so they will then analyze these people, and that's great because they've done an excellent job and the research is there. But then they go and watch the interviews and they want to know what their coming out experience was. They want to know about real life, and it's important to have those role models that exist, which is why these celebrities coming out are so important. I will never forget Tom Daly's coming out video, because he's the same age as me, and I remember that period of time. It was his YouTube video as well. And I felt like that was super huge at the time, and had that you know what I mean, like, had that been in a TV show where it was like someone playing it, but it was that's my issue with that. But yeah, I agree with the kind of celebrities driving forward things because they are what powers pop culture, right?
But also kind of, again, like going back to the normalizing thing. So like there are some celebrities who haven't necessarily come out, but you just see them pictured with their partner. So like, for example, I know that like Sarah Paulson, who I am obsessed with, she would just be like, is she her girlfriend or wife? I don't know who she is, but Holland Taylor, she's like, here she is, ta-da, and everyone's like, oh, okay, cool, fine. Just making it more normal. And I don't know, like she's never come out as far as I know, but just kind of normalizing it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, that's hopefully the ideal society that we can live in. So it is just like, oh yeah, by the way, this can also happen. It doesn't have to be that boy-girl relationship. And I think what needs to be taught at a younger age. I mean, we all had them. I definitely had some questionable sex education classes with a very old lady that had a twitch in her nose. Like, why? I never knew anything of it, but I was always taught about straight relationships and heterosexual relationships. So where is the education and the stuff about gay relationships or whatever relationship it is?
Some more facts on exactly that. So I think a lot of us know, purely because of Davina De Campo, what Section 28 is now. Section 28 was a law that was passed when Thatcher was in charge, which prohibited the promotion of homosexuality, and that was repealed in Scotland in 2000. In the year 2000, that was 20 years ago. And then in England and Wales, it was repealed in 2003. That's not even 20 years ago. So the education system didn't reform the way it taught sex education until, to be honest, a lot of us had started to leave school.
Yeah.
And I think it's only recently that that's changed, because that education system was, our education system, the teachers are great, but it's flawed, because it still teaches a regime that is from like the industrial era, really, to pump out workers, rather than teaching, I guess, what the world is now. Sorry, Matt, I sort of interrupted you there to give the facts.
Everything you say is valid. It's exactly like the reason that we need these conversations and we need change to happen. So yeah, I think that's definitely it. But yeah, we just need more education into, because if I'd have known back then a little bit more about even just what being gay was, like no one spoke about it. I was the first person in my year to come out. I mean, everyone kind of just guessed anyway, and then they just like, oh, is he just gonna say yes yet? And like, obviously I did. But yeah, it's just, you know, we just need that education in our world, so people can be like, oh yeah, I do identify as that, so they know who they are and they just can carry on with their lives and be their authentic self as well.
But I think also as well, it's about kind of the sort of, I think that what people kind of don't like, sort of give people the credit, like how long of a journey it was. Like, so I came out to my friends when I was like 17 probably, but I probably started questioning it when I was like 14. And I think going back to the sex education thing, I think unfortunately, a lot of, I don't know, but I reckon a lot of LGBT people end up having to get it from like porn, because that's kind of the only thing you ever see.
Probably.
And then, I don't know how it works for women, because some of the stuff with women is it looks like it's for men. I wonder. Jeez.
I've never seen any of it, just full disclosure. I don't watch porn, like, ever. But
we wouldn't judge you if you did.
No.
I just haven't. But I think, like, so I went to a Catholic school, so like we did not speak about it. You don't, like, we watched a video. I remember watching a video of a woman giving birth and then basically passing out, and that was your sex education. That is what they made you watch. They made you watch a woman have birth and pass out, and that was them telling you don't get pregnant. That was our sex education, and that was primary school. Like, that was like year 5. That was like when you're 10, and that was it. That's all we ever had. Nothing else.
I'm speechless.
So, honestly, that was our school, and I don't think they're allowed to do that anymore. Funnily enough. That was ours.
No, I think in fairness, my school's quite good. I think they were kind of saying about, like, they kind of just said about like the sex, but not like gendered, which is quite good. I think this was back in 2010, whatever. So they're basically like, if you're going to have oral sex or like anal sex or whatever, or penetrative sex, that's it. So kind of they didn't gender it, which was kind of good. But I just remember like learning about all the kind of different forms of contraception. And we had a Northern Irish teacher, and I just remember her being like, this is the coil. I'm just like, that's all I remember. And I also, again, my mum was like, you could have gone either way. So you know those things where it's like a diaphragm, you're supposed to like put it up inside and it covers, I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
But I thought you put it like on the front, like as a shield, to be like, no, you shall not pass. So I think that sex education is maybe needs to be a little bit better, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it bewilders me post-AIDS crisis, jumping back to that kind of topic, that isn't something that was integrated immediately into sex education.
Exactly.
Because I don't think a preventative way of anything is saying don't do that, because people will go and do that. If you say don't do this, if you say this is the most safe way to do this, and this is the way that you can do it, that is probably the most helpful way to do it, in terms of safe sex, then great. But I don't understand. I mean, my sex education was exclusively about the joy of creation, to quote musical theatre, since you're all here. What is that? Spark of creation, not joy of creation. Sorry, wow, I sounded like I was some sort of preacher on the street there. But anyway, it's like people came for a chat about coming out, and here I am about spark of creation. But anyway, that was, I think, sex education for us exclusively was about like making babies. And I know we talked about sex as like a pleasurable act. Like people do have sex for pleasure, just to put it out into the ether. It happens, and it doesn't matter if you're LGBTQ or if you're not. People still do that. And I feel like it sounds wonderful, Jack, that you had an education where that was something that was inclusive of that, saying that people will have sex, and whoever it is that you have sex with, this is the safe way to do it. Great.
I mean, I wish that was exactly how it was. I mean, in ideal terms, but even talking about sex and not even talking about gay sex at this point, it is a little bit taboo to speak about. Still, if you can't, if you're having sex and you're saying you're just having it for the pleasure of it, it is a little bit like, oh, you're not for a baby or anything like that. And that's sad in itself, because why have we been programmed to think like that? And then talking about gay sex, or however you want to phrase it, then that's even more taboo. Going to do that. So it's just what's wrong with the world at the moment.
And then at my school, there wasn't any even mention of transgender, like at all. Like, I think that, and it's kind of bad because it seems like it wasn't even a long time ago. It was probably like 10 years ago. And there kind of wasn't even any sort of mention of, you know, not even any different sexuality. So it kind of like was far to a point. But I think I got the vibe that my teacher was trying to push it like as much as she could, but there wasn't any kind of mention of different sexualities or kind of, you know, gender, like kind of, you know, people express their gender in different ways. So kind of, I think it was kind of underlying, but it wasn't like obvious, I don't think, which was a shame. So
I think that's changing in schools now a lot. Like, you've got children's stories that are like now more encouraging and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, The Boy in the Dress and stories like that children are reading that are now going, oh, actually, there's someone in this that I feel close to. I understand how they feel. Maybe that's me. And I think that that's a nice thing. Like that must be good for people coming up from, like, you know, younger children coming up to join us and stuff like that. Like, that must be really good that they have something that they can relate to, which we might not have had back then.
Yeah, that's definitely all just like what we need, like as a standard, like in the education system, just showing that like a man and a man could be together, and just showing a woman and a man and a woman and a woman, just showing it in like books and stories and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't need to be anything that's like we've talked about, like the sexual part of it. You just need to say like, oh, by the way, kids, these can be together, because they have started to realize, oh God, in the education system specifically, I'm talking, like the reception class that I worked in was doing Rapunzel, and instead of Rapunzel being a typical white lady with blonde hair, it was like a dark-skinned lady with lovely black hair, and she was part of, and it was all part of the Indian culture, and it was just great to see like these kids probably that relate to that culture and just go, oh, there I am. Shown in a book. Like, it's just bog standard.
It's interesting when we chatted about feminism in our last Dangerous Dialogue, and there was I don't know who it was that brought up the point, but in a lot of storybooks or stories, if I instinctively was about to tell you a story now about some random character, most people would gender that as a male. So even just reversing that and saying, okay, her, it's about her, and doing that to gender roles, I feel like we're kind of talking about the same about characters saying, well, actually they were married to someone of the same gender or whatever. I think we just, and you don't even need to unpack that, because I think people think, oh, okay, I have a character that's LGBTQ, I need to talk about that, and I need to talk about their life. No, you don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when you have it on like soap operas and it's like they have to go into a massive detail about why this character is gay. Like, who cares? Just have them as that character and carry on. You don't do that about like Ken Barlow, do you? Do you know what I mean?
No, exactly.
It's not fair. You just do that forever. You don't explain why he's that, this, that, and the other. He is what he is. Like,
Exactly.
just carry on the story.
Yeah. One of the first topics we looked at when I first started at my school is that we were looking at different families and kind of how families come in different shapes and sizes type things.
Yeah.
So we've got one of the children is adopted, and we've also got 2 twins who they have 2 dads. So it's just kind of, again, like normalizing things and kind of like that's, you know, completely normal to them. And then we did actually have, when it was coming up to Mother's Day, they were like making Mother's Day cards. And I thought like, oh, okay, is this going to be all right? But then the boys just said like, oh, I can make one for my grandma instead. And just kind of things like, it's just normalizing things.
Yeah.
And again, that's it, hopefully we kind of make people feel more comfortable to come out, or not even have to, because it's so much more normalized, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's interesting because we've kind of talked about coming out as a thing to do specifically with sexuality. And there's a lot more that you can come out as, because I guess coming out is just an admission of truth, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of what we're describing it as. Like, if I was to give it a dictionary definition, so I mean, I'm definitely not the right person speaking it, but kind of coming out in terms of gender, or coming out as saying, oh, this is what my family structure is. Like, I as you say, I don't have a mum, or I'm adopted, or that I guess is kind of coming out as well, but we kind of think of coming out specific to sexuality.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
I will speak on behalf of my experience. I identify as non-binary. There's a lot of reasons to why I identify as non-binary, but I haven't actually thought about like, oh, coming out as non-binary, because it's part of how I feel about gender and part of my truth. I haven't even fathomed to like speak about it with my family and whatnot, but to my friends, I just said it obviously because they're my friends, are going to accept me either way. But it was a bit weird. We had to do the census, and I accidentally put on my thingy, noon binary. By accident, I spelled it wrong. I was being noon binary. I was looking that down, and I was like, oh, to my friends, oh, look, I put down noon binary. They were like, you're non-binary, and I was like, oh, yeah. I forgot to mention, but like, when it's a funny conversation of like, when do I bring up that? Yeah. No one, as we all assumed throughout talking about this, like, when I'm trying to find the words for this, we all assumed that everything was to do with sexuality. Then when do you come out as like part of your gender?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, when is the particular moment for that, and do you sit people down for that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping that you wouldn't, but it is a good thought to have, and which I haven't even thought about it. That's why I was stuttering so much.
Sure. Sorry, go on.
No, I don't even know what I was going to say, Tom. I don't even know.
I think it's really interesting because I guess sexuality we think of as something that you find as you grow, and because we don't associate sex with something that you do and shouldn't before you're 16. At least in this country, I know that varies in whatever country people are watching this in. People are watching, surprise. But I think there is. We'll talk so much more about this when we talk about gender identity in a kind of topic. But there's an assumption that you are assigned a gender at birth, whether that's male, female, or intersex.
Yeah.
And that is what you live your life as. And I guess that's why there's this struggle at the moment, because it's unlike sexuality where there's an assumption. It's like gender, it's like an assignment, like
yeah, it's definitely something that you've been told what to do, what you are based on what kind of part you have, and it's unfortunate that that is the case. And then you have to come out as anything other than the normal, which is the normal that we have been assigned at birth. So something needs to be done there as well if the higher powers are listening. I don't know who the higher powers is. I hope it's not Boris Johnson, but
he is. He's behind me.
He loves the YouTube video.
There's like talk about obviously eradicating putting a gender on birth certificates and stuff like that. Like how obviously as a non-binary person, how do you feel about that? Is that something that you want to happen, or?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in not telling anyone what they are until they discover who they are. So if someone wants to identify with the scientific parts that they have, then go off. Like if you want to live by the binary of what we've already been given, then that's great if that's how you identify. So definitely something like that would be great to have, because let's face it, between 0 and, I'll be safe here and say 10, it doesn't really matter. It matters kind of like after that, and when you grow up. Like I'm 23 and I was 22 at the time and realized, you know what, I don't identify as a male or female. I identify as something other than that. So if I wasn't always told, and also another thing is, but that's a completely separate discussion to coming out, always being told you're a boy, you're a boy, you're a boy, you're a man, you should marry, look strong, you blah blah blah. So having something other than male or female, or just completely, you don't really need it on there. You could put what kind of anatomy is there or something. Just for obviously doctors need to know. They could put something like that there, or just maybe abolishing it. Like we don't really need it, because that is to come later in life for the other person to decide. And then it also take out some gender dysphoria for people like myself and trans people, so they don't feel like they are told, that is what you are, you must stick to it, because it's creating problems down the line for other people.
And I think as well, again, it's about, I keep using the word normalizing, but there's this really good documentary on Netflix that's called Disclosure, and it's kind of about trans people represented in media, and it's really interesting. And it's kind of saying about, like, again, I think that's another thing about coming out, is I think that kind of sometimes there being negative stereotypes, maybe, because like I remember when I was growing up at high school, there was a character on Little Britain that was like the only gay in the village, and I was like, people are going to think that that's me. And like, again, I think that kind of with trans representation, if sometimes people are saying like people don't, so that's another thing as well about like characters being played by cisgender people playing trans characters, and they were saying about people are going to think that I'm actually just a man in a wig or whatever. So again, maybe people's coming out can be affected by negative stereotypes portrayed within media as well.
I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head of something I kind of wanted to talk about there. For anyone that kind of does watch this video that is specifically kind of thinking about coming out, or even has come out, I think there is an association when, as we've talked about, kind of what schools do and don't teach, and you kind of have to go and do your own research, and you always should anyway, that the characters on TV or in movies that you look to are your association of what those sexualities or genders are. And I think some of them are quite harmful. And I, with the likes of Little Britain, there's been many an apology said for that. But I think yeah, it's great now that, you know, we have a lot of representation in a lot of TV shows of different ways of kind of what your life is. But often I find that a lot of it is in comedy, which is excellent because I love comedy. And I just feel like it'd be really nice to see those characters. Like there's a film coming out with Colin Firth and is it Stanley Tucci? That an older gay couple, and you're like, great, and it's a drama, it's about Alzheimer's, and it's not about the fact that they're a gay couple, they just are. Exactly. So I don't know, there's unhealthy stereotypes, but I think we kind of, the way media is portraying things really impacts how I guess we all see ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And like, for example, I'll watch like, you know, gay films or whatever, or something like that. And I think like, could this work with straight people? Because I think there's so many times with films that have a gay character, them being gay is a problem somehow.
Yeah.
Like Brokeback Mountain, they have to like ruin their marriage and like, you know, I don't know. So it's just kind of, again, like kind of positive representation.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, as we're saying, all the education of the children, it should be in books and stuff. Like, it should be presented in media the same for adults to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely, like, we should have books with it in where it's not about them being gay, like you said. It's usually, and as you said from the Disclosure documentary, like, trans people were always the butt of the joke of whatever, if they were being shown in modern media. And it's also just getting, you know, gay people out there and just getting them to be as queer as they possibly can. So more stuff, and the ball keeps on rolling, and we'll be able to, you know, fizzle out this homophobia, really. That's just all we can hope for, and always have these conversations.
And it's like there's so much media around like coming out being a scary thing and being like, you know, there's so many programs where it's like they've come out and their dad's abandoned them, and that happens, but now everyone's terrified of coming out because they think, oh, I'm gonna be abandoned, or I'm gonna like, this is what's gonna happen. And then like, especially like with me, like the whole anxiety then floods back, and then you're like, well, who can I tell? Like, because
exactly,
my friends, because they'll think, oh well, I'm not going in the bathroom with them because of this. I can't tell parents because they'll abandon me. And it's like, because media tells us that that's what's going to happen, and realistically people probably turn around and go, right, cool, and you carry on your life. It might be weird for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but other than that, a lot of the time it doesn't really change much, other than the fact that you're living the life that you should be living.
Absolutely. I mean, one of my coming out experiences was quite difficult, but that was short-lived, let's say, because it's not like that anymore. And I think you're absolutely right, Colette, that on the whole, it's not a fearful experience, and for anyone that kind of is thinking about or considering coming out or living their authentic life, that was my worst RuPaul impression. But it's just, you know, it's just all those looks. But anyway, terrible. But I think the reality is there's no right time to do it. There's no wrong time to do it. And it is scary, but honestly, people on the whole are nice, because people aren't arseholes. There are definitely arseholes in the world, but fuck them.
Just to elaborate on that, like, if you are coming out to your family and, you know, maybe it's not the best situation, they didn't deal with it right, you have to realize that sometimes as you're also coming out and you're adjusting to your own new life, whoever you're telling, maybe your parents, are also adjusting to that. So maybe do need time to get their head around it. It's obviously not what I would want for like a positive reaction towards a coming out. but sometimes people do need time to adjust to change.
Yeah.
Obviously, I wish everyone would just be like, oh yeah, great, don't worry about it, let's go, blah blah blah. But yeah, that's definitely something that I've always thought about when coming out.
It's interesting because I think that thought of change is what can plague some people for coming out. You're absolutely right, Matt. And I think those that come out later in life, the perfect example that I think of is Philip Schofield, who was married, he has kids, and he was very happily married, and he is a very happy person. But I think you can't downplay the fact that earlier on in life, he's 59, I think. I think, I know he's 59. And there was a whole thing earlier this week where I thought I accused him of being 60, and then I found out he was 59. It's not like I'm talking to him, but anyway, whatever. My point is that I guess he couldn't have come out potentially 40 years ago. The circumstances weren't there for everyone. So we're talking about coming out as being a young person's game, or kind of finding yourself in your teens and 20s. But actually, it can be something in your later life that you go, okay, actually, do you know, this is who I am, and I want people to know that.
Definitely. I mean, there are a whole number and factor of reasons why someone might not come out, and they just leave it till the later in life, and they've already filled up their life with a bunch of experiences and realize, am I living truthfully? Because as a human instinct, we all just want to survive, so go along with probably maybe whatever's easiest at the time, and then realize, you know, we can't do this anymore. And like Philip Schofield come out where later in life when he is 59. And it's blah blah blah.
But I think that also as well, and they kind of frame it in a bit of a cringy way, but like the whole thing about like a chosen family, I think. So like, I feel like maybe if there are people who don't accept you, there are people that will as well. So like, you know, you can find your voice, find your, like, I don't know, your niche, I guess. And like kind of, there are, you know, having gay friends, that's so important as well. I think that can kind of help people with coming out. Like, you know, if you have gay friends as well, you can share your lived experiences and things like that. And like, you know, I think, because I mean, there was almost kind of I remember one of the drag queens on RuPaul's Drag Race was like, oh, I kind of feel like I can't speak to straight guys. And I was just kind of like, that's kind of a shame. Like, kind of, why is that? So I think that the kind of importance of kind of feeling like you can be yourself around a group of people is really important, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like we're kind of starting to round things up really nicely here. So I kind of just wanted to give people an opportunity to kind of have that definitive thought, a bit like Jack's just had, of I guess advice. Let's call it advice for if someone was considering kind of what that coming out experience might be for them. What would be your kind of key of wisdom based on the last kind of hour and a bit?
I think my advice would probably be like, just know that what you're doing is being yourself. You're coming into something, you're coming into a community, and without quoting another musical, you're not alone. You know, you're not alone. You will be found. Putting two in there. Like, we will take you in, and you know, there is a community that will accept you if the people who you feel are the closest to you don't, if that makes sense. If you feel like it's right, then it's right. There's never going to be another thing that's going to be more right.
I'd say if you are thinking about coming out, it's not as painful as you think. And if it is, it's exactly what Colette just said. Always, if you want to come out, do it on your own terms, as we have said, because I think that's just very important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yourself. Don't ever feel pressured to do anything that you don't want to do, because you are your own person, and you know, you just want to stay true to yourself. So go and come out if you need to. And if not, you can come to mine. I'll make you a slap up vegan meal.
There you go.
Love that.
Yeah, I kind of want to echo what Matt said. Come out if you need to. You don't have to. There's no pressure to. You just do you, because there's nothing kind of better than doing you. And to quote another musical, because I feel like that's what we've been doing a lot tonight. In Be More Chill, they say you want to more than survive.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I like that. Survival's great, but it's nice to do more than surviving. So if you're in a situation that doesn't allow you to be you, speak to someone. And you know, we'll put links in the description of this. What's this? A video communication. Then there is people that you can talk to that can help. And they're out there. There's free services like the LGBT kind of switchboards, the helplines.
Yeah, I pulled one. I remember I pulled one when I was like 16. Yeah, and they were really helpful. They were like, "Does your mum watch Corrie?" There's probably someone gay on that. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Love that.
Bless him. Bless him.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Colette, Jack, and Matt, for joining us this evening. What a lovely chat. And thank you to everyone that's kind of watching us or is watching us on the kind of catch up. That made it sound like it was like, oh, like a cool TV show where you can watch us on catch up.
Oh yeah.
Please
Amazon
join
Prime.
us. Yeah, well, imagine. Please do join us for the rest of our Dangerous Dialogues through Pride Month. As you can see, these are kind of topics that I really do think need unpacked, and not enough people do have these conversations. So please have your own conversation about exactly what we've talked about tonight. But next week we're talking about gender identity, and later in the month we're also talking about drag and representation. So do tune in for those, and by all means have your own conversations about those too. Wonderful. Happy Pride Month, everyone.
Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month.
Wonderful. I've forgotten how you stop this being live, which is always great. I think there's a drop-down menu. This is the worst way to finish a fucking video.